On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains.
Coming to you straight from San Diego, California. Let's welcome our host, April Mahoney.
Well, so what are you doing? You've converted your garage into your office? Right?
Yeah. I converted my garage into my office back in March, and which is, cost effective because I can't, don't want to pay for an office.
No, who wants a brick and mortar now? That's just obsolete when everything is virtual. Well,
I do miss parking my car in the garage, but that's fine. But I'm going to be converting this garage into a virtual auction studio.
Really?
Yeah, it's probably going to be up and running in a month, so that nonprofits who can't readily afford to hire a big AV company and put on a big production will have me as an option.
Wow. Well, I'm telling you, they got a winner. You know what I did? I snuck in here and converted Mr. Magnificent's man cave. So I try to get out of here before 4:30 before he comes home from work. But thank you so much, Zack Krone, for being here on the edge with me. Okay? I am so excited to have you. Let me tell you, I've done a lot of work with nonprofit, social services, and schools. And it's a different time now. Fundraising and development is my stick, or as my daughter says, my PB&J, my jam. Because I know how to make the ask and I know how to close the deal, but you know how to sell it. And I have had an opportunity to watch some of your videos on YouTube and just some of the great work you've done. I know you've raised over $1 gazillion. So I've asked you to come on the edge to talk to my brains a little bit about what fundraising and development looks like in today's environment, because it's changed considerably. As I said, once upon a time, you could give $1,500 a plate and fill the room and, give a couple great auction items, a car, sometimes a house, and clean up. But now people are not gathering in the rooms. They are not, giving their legacy donations the way that they were. So we need great people like you to really bring us up to speed as to what is happening. So Brains, without further ado, let me tell you, let me introduce you to Zack Krone right there. That is the man. He is doing the most. Thank you so much for being here.
You are way too kind. And thank you.
No, I'm not.
That's quite an intro. Just manage your expectation, Brains. I don't know if I hope I can deliver after that intro.
You can.
That's very
sweet.
Tell
us a little bit about you and how this all started for you.
Good question. I'd say back in like 2006, 2007, I was an on-camera news reporter for Reuters. And I was hired to mainly do the entertainment pieces for, red carpet gatherings of any sort, after parties, record releases, things like that. And that was fun for a while. Most of the male celebrities didn't like talking to me because I'm 6'2", so I was so much taller than them, which was kind of funny. But because of being on camera and being seen in different markets, because that's what Reuters did, was sell their pieces to different markets. I was asked to be the MC at a bunch of different nonprofit fundraisers, big galas and, socialite affairs. And it was always fun. And it was just a side thing for me to do. And, it was on a volunteer basis. And every single one of these events that, paid, I'm sure, a ton of money for their venue and their entertainment and their decor, whenever it came time to actually fundraise, I kept seeing the same problem, which was their hiring of a commercial auctioneer. Most people hear the word auctioneer and they think it's just like one guy talks fast, can sell anything. It's a much more specialty career now anyway than it was back then. So imagine being in a room full, semi-inebriated with a room full of socialites, and out comes a guy who's customarily liquidating assets and selling cars, couches, and cattle, going, it's interesting for like 10 seconds, and then you tune out, and it doesn't raise any money.
Right.
And so I kept seeing this over and over and over again, and people would just tune out, and the nonprofit would suffer because they wouldn't raise the money necessary to justify the event. It was hurting the nonprofit field. And I knew I could do it. Background in television, improv, all this kind of stuff. My dad was he was a general manager of a car dealership.
Oh yeah.
Started as a car salesman. I used to go to the car auctions. I kind of saw what to do and what not to do. And I was like, this needs something. This needs to be entertaining. This needs to be more interesting. This needs more. And whenever a celebrity tried to do the auction, it was the other side of the problem. They didn't know how to sell. They didn't know how to move the money along. They didn't know how to stay in front of the crowd. So there needed to be kind of a hybrid of that. And so the next time somebody asked me to be the MC, I said, I'll do your auction as well. And they were like, great, that saves us, a lot of money. And so I did it and I loved it. My first one was like at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. And I remember Christina Applegate bidding and laughing and just engaging the crowd on an entertainment basis because they paid a lot of good money to be there and they deserve to be entertained. So from there, 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8. And all of a sudden I was having more fun, feeling a little bit better about my position in life because I was raising money for a good cause rather than asking Hayden Panettiere what she was wearing that night.
Right.
And so there was validity in the position. So I was like, I love this. And I jumped right in. Shortly thereafter, I started working as a development director for an Orange County nonprofit, and I wanted to learn everything there was to learn about the nonprofit field. And I was essentially their closer. I was sent in to go to the lunches, be on the phone, and get the big donations.
Right.
And I also went to auction school to make sure that I was doing it right, and I learned a lot there. There are auction schools. I went to the Worldwide College of Auctioneering, and it taught me a lot about the ethics and the laws and the chant, and having a proficiency in all that. And so I can consult with nonprofits on what to do and what not to do. And so I think in 2011, I formed California Coast Auctions. And from there, we have steadily grown year after year. In 2019, we did 265 live events between myself and my team of 7 other auctioneers. And a lot of them, we took from their genesis of getting into live events, and now a lot of them were on autopilot and doing really, really well and growing systemically as live events should, to where it becomes more about donations and cultivating donors and less about selling stuff.
Right.
So
right.
Well,
now have you ever calculated how much money you've raised?
It changes from year to year. I mean, I would love to say it's all because of me and generally auctioneers.
Team, right?
Yeah, I mean, auctioneers love to take credit even when it's not due. And so a lot of it, we help and consult. A big part of my job is the 9 to 5 is the consulting on making sure the pieces are where they need to be in order for the event to be successful. I'm kind of like an auxiliary committee member. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm not responsible for bringing in the big donors. I am responsible for where they sit and, what they're interested in, figuring out what their modality of giving is going to be so we can leverage that into more giving. Mm-hmm. But I can't take credit for all the money we've raised. I mean, I think on any given year, the average event is raising around $100,000. Okay. So, and then there's those events that come around once a month that are raising over $1 million. Mm-hmm. So I was
at ESO. The last gala I went to, my mentor, she raised $2.5 million in 45 minutes. And I was like, and she didn't do a whole lot. She's very petite, very soft-spoken, but let me tell you, she spoke to them and they gave handsomely. So again, like I said, it used to be the big galas, everybody get dressed up, have a great cocktail hour. You have the silent auction, and then you have the big giving. But now things have really changed. So what does that look like when you sit at the table with the board of directors of these nonprofits and social services, and they're biting their nails, wondering if they're going to be able to keep the doors open, wondering if they're still going to be able to service their client? What are you saying to them in those conversations about fundraising? What are suggestions, and what are you saying that, that they should look at and focus on,
Sure.
in the world of fundraising?
Well, I've always been a proponent of virtual fundraising even before COVID-19, because it was how the youth market chose to interact with their nonprofit modality, whether it be with OMAs or Charity Buzz or online auctions of some kind, or another. So I was like, most people ask me, how do we get younger? How do we get new donors? And I said, you should start cultivating your virtual community now, put more focus in your social media, get the attention of the new generation, because that's how they consume their media.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, we don't really see the percentages in that. And now virtual events have become the mainstay because it's the one thing you can do without having to postpone. Now's the time to experiment, and necessity breeds innovation.
Right.
You don't want to lose the sponsorship dollars that you've already garnished for your live event, so you have to put it into a platform in which you can sell and give your sponsors something like airtime. And you need to stay on top of your transactional donors. Transactional donors for a lot of nonprofits are the middle class donors, the people that make or break your nonprofit. Transactional donors are the types of people who give by impulse. They give once, they buy something, they buy a ticket, they give like in the $500 range in the fund a need, and they're usually interested in some sort of transaction of what they can get back in return rather than just donating. And someone over 60 is giving for their legacy. They're giving because their social circle, they have the money to give, they're pillars of the community. People under 40 are giving because they might win something, or they get to attend a party, or they get to do something. So you don't want to lose those donors, and you want to cultivate those relationships. So the virtual event is pretty much the only game in town you can do right now. And there's lots of different things like drive-in events and watch parties that you can develop a ticket price off of and generate funds that way. And I'm sure every catering company in Southern California and beyond is more than happy to work right now. And in a lot of ways, we're the only cameras rolling.
Right.
Most businesses shut down. So this is a great way to, if you do it right, if you make them entertaining and you make them worth watching, this is a great way to cultivate new donors, to get younger, to usher in your new generation, and to set the stage for a new revenue stream that isn't going away. Right. Even when the storm passes and we're able to do live events, the proposition of doing so is going to have a very limited cost benefit ratio compared to before, because the cost of the venues have gone up to have new safety protocols. The head count that's allowed in that venue has gone down because of physical distancing. And your constituency as a nonprofit is going to be hesitant about gathering. Would you pay $500 to go to a venue and have to wear a mask the whole time, and your constant exposure to the public? So live events are going to move outdoors, and they're going to be held at different times of year at alternative schedules. And you still got your immune compromised, your senior citizens, your agoraphobic, your germophobic people that aren't going to be as engaged with a live event as we have been in the past. So
that they can use over and over again, and it's all, one-stop shop.
You take it, you cut it, you got your little promo video of how awesome the virtual event is. This is the Etsy store. And Etsy stores are pop-ups. You can do 4 of these a year, all with different looks and feels and modalities. And I think it's very important for nonprofits to start cultivating a virtual community. Even if you're not doing a straight up like auction fundraiser, get people engaged with you on the virtual plane. Do virtual bingo, virtual poker, virtual wine tasting, virtual bourbon tastings, virtual cooking lessons.
That's fun.
Do a virtual baking class, and then sell the stuff for the cookies that everyone's going to make all at the same time. And then like hold a contest for best cookie or, best cake, best cupcake, all this kind of stuff. Because people, I think the need to congregate is so inert. It's such a part of our DNA. It's why we go to parties. It's why we go to church. It's why we go to fundraisers. So that need is still there. And any sense of normalcy just feels so good. So when you're able to engage with people in ways they wish to engage with, but they're centered around your nonprofit, I would love it if Homeboy Industries held a virtual tutor, thing to show me how to make their salsa.
Right. Or take you on a tour through their kitchen.
Right.
Have a commercial kitchen there, and that's great.
And then get involved with social media more so than ever before, because I think also if there is a silver lining to this whole pandemic, it's that people of a certain age are the learning curve is getting lower, and they know how to do Zoom now. You know, the boomer generation is getting into technology, and it's kind of forcing their hand. It's not the way I would have liked it to be, but it's happening. And they are kind of, everyone gets kind of happy and proud about themselves when they figure out a new technology.
Right. You know,
Remember when you got your first?
well, my
Yeah.
mother tells me to this day, she's 90, and she still tells me, she says, that device and that Facebook is the devil.
She might be right on a certain extent.
Yep, she says it's no good, you know, but what is good is all the things that you are doing. And I'm so glad, again, like I said, that you've been here with us and that you have been able to share some great tips. Brains, take advantage of it. I told you, bring a pencil and piece of paper because, you know, your survival as a nonprofit is riding on it.
Yep. You got to do this kind of now because you got to keep the coffers at least above water, because come March, let's say it is March, April, May, and you still can't do a live event. Now you have to do a virtual event, and you've never done it before.
Right.
And now the stakes are that much higher for this virtual event to be successful. And who knows where we're going to be economically come then. So you got to capitalize on it now before the, you know, who knows what their finances are going to look like? Who knows what the nonprofits' finances are going to look like? Now is the time. This
is the perfect time because everybody's at home and you've got their undivided attention.
Yep. You know,
they're surfing the net for options. They're searching the net for places to spend their money that they haven't spent their money. They're looking to really look at causes that are in alignment with their core values. So this is the opportune time. It's the perfect cause.
Plus all those 1%ers out there, they can't do the things they normally do. I was talking to a friend of mine whose brother works for a Ferrari dealership. And he says, we've never been more busy with people buying Ferraris, because driving around in expensive cars is one of the things you can still do if you're a rich dude.
Right.
And, you know, I work with Juliens Auctions House. They contract me a lot. Great house. We just broke records for selling Kurt Cobain's guitar that he played at the MTV Unplugged show in 1993 for $6 million.
Ooh.
One of Prince's Blue Cloud Angel guitars, one of 4 in the world, for $600,000. It was beautiful. But those auctions have never been better because the high-end collector market, they're bored.
Right.
And so they got the time to attend a virtual event or host a watch party and engage with you. And they still have that DAF account. They still have that donor advised fund that their lawyer is telling them, you better give up. You gotta give away X amount of dollars a year for the tax purposes.
Exactly.
So,
and their foundations.
Right.
Their foundations.
And just like I mean, this happens here a lot in Orange County. It happens in LA. It's like, you come to my event and I'll come to your event. Oh, I'm co-chairing this virtual event. So you can tap into the network that these people are involved with, because that is kind of the social currency that you don't lose sight of either. So if you're throwing an event and you have the means of people and the socialites involved, they're going to be all for it. They're going to tell their friends, and then their friends are going to do it because they don't want to be outdone. And then they're going to invite them, and the circle keeps spinning. We can't take our foot off the gas. Now's the most important time to fundraising, because like with the Red Cross, when there's a hurricane, we all give to the Red Cross or some sort of relief effort to rebuild houses and rebuild lives and all the things that people lost. There's always some big relief effort that's nationwide. Well, COVID-19 is the hurricane of our society. It's a hurricane of our lives, and it touches everyone. So not raising funds right now is like, is like a veterans group not raising money when we are off to war, or when there is a natural disaster, or when there is, like after 9/11, you couldn't give enough money to the FDNY or to first responders.
Absolutely.
You couldn't give enough to Habitat for Humanity after the Great Recession. So every nonprofit in every sector of every life has been affected by COVID-19. And it's just really important to be able to ride adjacent and parallel with how COVID-19 is affecting your work and the people that are depending on your nonprofit to continue doing its work. So I'm sure most nonprofits know that, but having the virtual platform is something that you can sell. It's something that you can market. It's a way to attract new donors and get your message out there. Otherwise, you just can't fall into irrelevance.
What does it cost to pull off a virtual event versus one of these, old time, big time galas?
Well, that's kind of the best news of this whole entire industry, because it usually costs about 25 to 30% of what it costs to put on a live event. So even if you gross less money at a virtual event, you're still netting more and taking home more for the cause, because it really only entails 3 vendors. To pull off a straight virtual event where there's no watch parties and catering involved, you're talking anywhere between, you need your mobile bidding company, your Give Smart, your Greater Givings, One Cause, Auctria, Auction Frogs, all these great companies that are out there. Better Unite is a really good one. They have their cost, I have my cost, and I'm helping produce and kind of show you the ropes and then executing it. And then you have your AV companies, and that's about it. And a lot of people are even turning to churches. Churches have become the new event spaces, because a lot of them have the AV equipment already, and they have a decent enough space and stage with lighting, kind of the more modern churches, I should say, not a big cathedral, because they're doing virtual sermons. And so it's really quick and easy to throw one of these up. You can do them for, a lot of them are anywhere between 10 to 20 grand, sometimes less.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to kind of be able to share that and say, we're throwing this virtual event, but we're saving a lot of money in the production of it. So you'll know as a donor that your money's going that much further and that much towards the cause, because booking a nice hotel in 2019 was 30 to 50 grand.
Exactly. And you have to use their caterers, and
you got catering and decor and all that good stuff. So you can really you can reallocate funds towards celebrities to help market the event, and have them be engaged. There was a good one for like an LA housing group, and they had Ed Helms, the actor from The Office, and he was playing guitar, and that was really fun. And you can, put some into production design and things of that nature, and to make it more entertaining and a visceral experience. But yeah, one of the reasons this format is working is it's so cost effective, and it's a lot quicker to throw up. There was a group in San Diego, Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, put on a great event, and they had 3 weeks to do it, and it was one of the best virtual events we've done. Wow. And they found a great studio, and so I've been making connections and inroads with all these different studios and kind of letting them know what the marketplace looks like and what these nonprofits are looking for. And because I've had to get pretty well versed in the technology of it as well, so I can be that ambassador.
And you know what? And then they have this marketing piece that can go up on YouTube, because I attended a virtual gala, and it was the coolest thing. I still got to dress up. I donated my ticket price. I donated my cocktail money. I donated money for my silent auction. And it was all virtual, and we all came together via Zoom, and they raised a ton of money, and they, $10,000, $11,000. But again, like you said, they need to have a template, and it needs to be done right. And you still need to have an auctioneer, someone to facilitate it, because they need to go through the steps, the process. They need to introduce the donors. They need to keep the audience engaged and fun. You shared something with me that really touched my heart and resonated with me about Jerry Lewis.
Yep.
I think it was Labor Day, September. Every September, Jerry Lewis had his muscular dystrophy telethon. Entertain, get some money. Entertain, get some money. Entertain, get some money. He was consistent, and he was, a pioneer when it came to this. So this is nothing new or innovative. It's just how you design it and the quality of entertainment. So you're doing something like that coming up soon, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. All these events need to have a balance of reciprocity of entertainment value, because we lost the party, we lost the gathering, we lost the dress up and the eating together and the live bands and the dancing. So we have to entertain them through this mode, through the screen, which is televised based entertainment. So, and Jerry Lewis figured that out a long time ago. So we're just reinventing the wheel, where you intermittent and have that reciprocity between entertainment and giving. So I have events coming up where we're getting former NFL stars that are associated with this nonprofit to hold a trivia game show style thing about the NFL. And it's going to be like round of trivia, auction item, round of trivia, auction item. There's another event I'm talking to about pretty much copying the comic relief aid format from the 90s, where it was ask for money comedian, ask for money comedian, ask for money comedian, and so on and so forth. And the more name talent you get involved, kind of the better it is to promote and get more people engaged and wanting to watch, and building it systemically from there. You only get that one chance for that first impression. So there's some really cute ones we're doing too. Like I'm working with a hospital. So we're going to play Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, more or less.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to take 3 doctors and 3 kids and play trivia with them. And you're going to get to know these people as we go. I was just talking to an animal rescue thing, and we're going to hold a basset hound race, not the fastest of creatures.
Oh.
And we're going to get to know the dogs prior to they were all rescued, what situation they came from, and how happy and healthy they are now with their new owners. And you're going to want to root for them. And you get that fish hook scenario where
Right.
you want to know what's going to happen next. And that's the same model that television uses. Essentially, the fundraising has become the commercials in a lot of ways.
Right, absolutely.
So even though fundraising is the primary goal, audience engagement is a much more macro goal for the expansiveness of the virtual fundraising revenue stream.
Right.
Because it's, like I said, it's not going anywhere because the castle walls are low.
Right. Well, let me dial back a little bit because I wanted to touch on something. The very philanthropic millennials, because they're still giving, but they are giving to specific causes. They are looking for clean water. They're looking for renewable energy. They're looking for anti-gun. They may have some political associations. How do we resonate with them? How do you make something engaging to them? Do you have to get you a TikTok? They communicate different, and they're already online, but are they going to be as engaged? How do you tap into them and get them encouraged about giving and being?
Well, first of all, social media should have already have been a major part of the marketing and publicity for nonprofits anyway, to usher in a new generation of donors. And you should be posting something on Instagram every single day, whether an Instagram live video or a showcasing of a certain benefactor. If there's one positive thing, and there are many, as a self-spoken millennial, I'm 38, so I'm
yeah, you're just a baby.
I'm right on the bubble. They are more sympathetic towards causes. But it takes engagement. That's really the part that's missing. You can't just turn to governments and corporations to pull this off.
Right.
It really does take that village, that sense of collective community to come together and find that cause that's meaningful for you. And yes, they do have a higher tendency to support causes that are secular, that are environmental, and that can initiate change on a grand scale. I think change needs to start at home. It needs to start at the community-based level. Like, if you want to change the environment, that's great. You could donate to a big nonprofit, but that big nonprofit is essentially working on Capitol Hill as a special interest group. So they're trying to initiate change through that.
Yes,
but
right.
If you want a park to get built in your neighborhood, that, like LA Neighborhood Land Trust or something like that, then I think it's important for those causes to market towards the millennial group now, because that's where you can really see the change. You can really be you're not going to give to some big, huge kind of corporate nonprofit.
Right.
So I think it's very important for millennials to be aware of that. And there's only 3 ways to get someone to give or engage. And I think the ASPCA figured this out a long time ago. You either inspire, you motivate, or you incentivize. Those are the 3 things that compel someone to give. So you're inspiring them with the stories, with the personal resonance, with the connection for the better sense of humanity in the world. You motivate with things that are more cerebral, like for every $1 you give, it will be matched, or $30 a month saves the life of this puppy, or there's other motivating factors that come into play as well.
Absolutely.
And then you incentivize. What can you literally get back? And if you donate to the ASPCA and save the life of this puppy, we're going to give you the ASPCA t-shirt.
Right.
Or we're going to enter you into an opportunity drawing to win XYZ simply for giving. Here's every time I see I get a lot of stuff in the mail for a lot of the nonprofits that I support. Like, I love to support environmental causes when it comes to our state parks. And so I get these, wonderful calendars and shirts and canvas bags and things like that with pictures of.
Now I get it. You get the stuff. I get it now.
They all get it. That's the thing. They understand that it's an exchange of goods. It's usually, it's not equal. A t-shirt is not $30, and
It's an
But
appreciation and it's an acknowledgement, and
right.
it also shows support. I mean, that's like when people
Yeah,
wear my logo or they
it's the
hold
Girl Scout
yeah,
badge.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
a give back. It's saying, hey, yeah, I'm totally in this with you.
It's a
Because
sign of merit for sure. Pretty
exactly.
much, pretty much every T-shirt I own is a nonprofit.
I know, and I've done a lot of nonprofits. I mean, I've done the fashion shows, and we've done the golf tournaments, and
Right.
the virtual cocktail parties, all of these things. So people are giving at a much lower rate. Maybe I shouldn't say all that. I'm not saying a lot of legacies like it used to be, because that was more the mindset of our older parents that said, you know what, I'm going to support the American Red Cross until I die because they helped us with the last pandemic, and
Right.
so in my will, I'm going to leave them $500,000. So I
Right.
don't know how we're going to really get millennials to have that train of thought. But again, like you said, if it's organizations that they believe in, causes that they believe in, they can do it at a small level. I have one particular nonprofit that I'm in love with, and they're in Los Angeles, and they're called the Homeboys. And Homeboys, I'm sure you know all the nonprofits, but they really work with disadvantaged
Hmm.
ex-offenders and kids that have been on drugs or in gangs, and they have their own. It's now called Homeboy Industries.
Right. They make salsa and tortilla
They
chips.
do,
And,
and they
yeah,
are in what? They're in Whole Foods now,
it's huge.
and they're teaching them how to be good parents, and they're getting their tattoos removed, and they're showing them how to work a commercial kitchen. That's what I'm hoping that nonprofits also incorporate, is a way to be self-sustainable.
Sure. They
Because
need product.
all this giving is tough,
Right.
and people are not giving, and they're looking for grants. And if you're not
Mhm.
already in that funnel of grants, it's going to be hard to get in there. So I'm thinking things like a women's shelter. Partner with a great cosmetic company and get your own line of nail polish, and each bottle of nail polish, you get something from there. At-risk youth in some of these schools, teach them how to install solar panels,
Right.
water pumps, sustainability. You're teaching them a skill, you're teaching them mathematics. It's
Hmm.
cutting edge technology, but it's always a way to give back.
Yep.
You want to talk about training programs. Really, what is the ROI, as you said, for me giving and donating? Again, if you're giving and you're philanthropic, you're giving from your heart. Do that
Right.
first, brains. Give from your heart and your commitment. Don't try to worry about a tax write-off. So let's talk about schools.
Okay.
Schools, very different animal.
Sure.
And I know a lot of teachers that go into their own pockets to support schools,
Which is a
to
shame.
books and pens and all that, considering all the tax money that I know I'm paying, and I don't have no little kids. So what do you say to schools? How do you really engage them? Because it used to be great to get that cookie dough. I don't know why they ever stopped that. Or you used to get those toffee coated peanuts. I love that.
Right.
The calendars. Those are
Right.
still very viable options, but they don't do that anymore. What are schools doing to raise money?
Schools are definitely a different animal. Are we talking private schools or public schools? Because that's a different animal in and of itself.
Okay, well, let's start with, because I know that the private schools probably have some donors
Right.
and some legacies and some very
Right.
philanthropic people. So let's talk about the regular public schools.
Okay. So the failings of the state of California with how much they appropriate towards schools is a very big issue, and it's a very controversial issue. And we pay the highest state income tax, and we pay the highest gas tax, and all the stuff that's supposed to go towards schools, and it hasn't. And school bonds, that money gets reallocated. It seems like whenever the state needs money, they take it away from schools. So schools, parents, individuals are left kind of holding the bag. So public schools need to pretty much fundraise the same way private schools do, which is through cultivating of a community. That's one thing that like private schools do a lot differently than public schools, is they're much more, I believe if you treat a donor like family, they'll behave like family. And I think that should apply to parents as well.
Well, you want to be careful, because some family members is cray-cray.
Exactly. And it's definitely a mixed bag out there with different parents and different teachers. And,
Right.
everyone loves to give their opinion, And that's what you got to be careful at a private school. If you give an opinion and you say, hey, we should change this about the school, or we should get faster internet, or we should get more computers, they're going to turn around and say, great, what are you going to do to institute that?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to get the money to pull that off? Because we love that idea.
Right, right.
But everyone wants to, order from the menu, but no one wants to pick up the check when it comes to the workload that you're investing back into the school. So it always comes down to community. Never doubt that the impact that a community can have. That as soon as you give power to your doubt, you're giving doubt to your power. It's a terrible thing. So you put your energy into these positive solutions is what I would tell these parents. If you want to see change, you have to make it on a community basis, because like even public schools in certain, like, let's say middle class, even lower middle class areas, certain schools are going to thrive based off of the parent body that they built around it, whether through
Right.
PTAs, the volunteer work that parents are doing it, and how engaged their parents are in the school and extracurricular activities. It's been proven time and time again that like the schools that raise the most amount of money for their football program are going to generate more revenue for the school and attract more talent because they invested in themselves. So public school is not free, as we all know. You're just going through an intermediary like the state government or the district that reallocates funds to their own liking. So it really, just like a nonprofit, it's direct to the cause. I like to find those middle level nonprofits that you are donating directly to them and not to some overall hierarchy.
Right,
where
right.
the money gets, like if you're supporting, I don't want to use any nonprofit's name specifically because I don't know their internal workings, but is the money that you're donating to that particular chapter going to that region, or is it going to DC or New York? Or
right. We had that. The nonprofit that I work with was major, and so we had that. It went to the corporate, and then sprinkling and crackling, of when to certain chapters. And so you had an option at that time to say, okay, I want my donation to go specifically to this specific area.
Right. So parents and teachers, I love what you're saying about having a product. And this is something Paul Newman figured out decades ago with his salad dressing. So if you have something that's distinctly yours that you can market and sell, that's at least generating awareness, and people should be walking around with t-shirts of your school, so people are aware that school is, you're putting that message out there that you're proactive, and not just lazy about it. It's kind of funny how parents would blame teachers for their kids' behavior and now the kids are at home being homeschooled and going, oh, this isn't the teacher's fault.
Right. They had no idea who that little person was. They kept seeing those notes, home. Now they have a clear idea, and even with that, we're going back and forth and back here in California. Do we send our kids to school? Don't we send our kids to school? Right. But again, that is another kind of co-op. That's another kind of relationship that we need to build as parents.
Exactly. A school is not a building. A school is a cooperation between teachers, administrators, parents, kids, and staff.
Yes.
And so school could be anywhere.
That's right.
When it comes to the shutdowns, I know we're getting a little off topic here with schools. It's every school is different in terms of ventilation, square footage, kids per classroom. So there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution to schools opening back up. But what they all need to do is fundraise for the eventuality of the changes that need to get initiated, because the state's not going to do it. And the California Teachers Association is showing no signs of doing it. And so you have to take control of your own destiny as much as you can when it comes to instituting, be the change you wish to see, essentially.
Absolutely.
It always takes that level of personal engagement. And so you're going to need funds to adjust whatever that adjustment is going to look like, whether it's more virtual equipment and technology, whether it's more PPE, or hand sanitizer, whether it's you need to invest in doors that open automatically so you're touching less surfaces, or because the school's square footage is so small that you need to rent out office space or a movie theater that can't be open and operational So
Right.
you can have 15 kids in a big enough space. I mean, I think the solution lies a lot in parks and community centers and libraries and things like that. For
Exactly, because these aren't going to be used for traditional use, so we might as well make them,
yeah,
educational resources and centers for learning.
yep.
So let me ask you some other questions. So let's just change the subject. What has
Okay.
all of this taught you? This you've been through a lot. I've been through a lot. We're isolating. You're working in the garage. I'm in Mr. Magnificent's man cave. What has this taught you about who you are as a person, who you are as a parent, and who you aspire to be as a man in the world?
You know, if first of all, you can't afford to take your foot off the gas, especially in this kind of environment. It's adapt or die, just like it is in any other business. You're either growing or you're dying. You need to be able to be flexible and willing to learn. If you're not willing to learn something new, no matter how old you are, your viability, are you going to allow yourself to fall into stagnation and be obsolete? I don't have that choice, and a lot of other people don't either. I have 2 kids. I run a small business. I got nothing protecting me except me. So it always comes down to self-discipline is a lot about what it taught me. And I find a lot of comfort in moving forward, just forward and advance. Whatever gets thrown at you, forward and advance. You can't change the past. All you can do is change your trajectory in the future. And I think a lot of people, you can get low. There's no doubt about it. You're a human being. You worked really hard to build up something. Most people were doing pretty good. Not all of them, but 2019 was a good year for a lot of people. And I think you have to let go of whatever that past was. And I've had to learn a whole new side of technology. I just dove right in. I didn't have the luxury of
Right.
mourning what was lost, because I can't, I work for nonprofits. If I lost something, the nonprofit lost something, which means their beneficiaries are the ones who are suffering. I'm not an auctioneer. I do it, but I'm a professional fundraiser, and the nonprofits that hired me to help them fundraise, I still have a contract. Whether we can do a live event or not, it doesn't matter. We have to fundraise.
Right.
These other diseases didn't go away just because COVID is here. In fact, they got more dire. More people are turning to nonprofits to help them now, more so than ever. And so it's not a good time to raise the white flag. And so if nonprofits aren't waving the white flag, neither should I. I don't have that luxury or choice. I have mouths to feed, and so do they.
Right.
So
So let's talk about that white flag,
yeah,
because everyone's talking about white privilege. And I'm not trying to put anybody in any awkward predicament,
sure.
but you have worked with the Black Police Officers Association here in San Diego, and I'm sure tons of others. How do we come together to make it green? It's not about, right. It's not about brown, red, blue, white, because we're all in need, and every
Right.
organization is multicultural at some
Yep.
level.
Yep.
How do we bridge that gap? You got any suggestions?
By coming together and just open-mindedness, really. I think a lot of people are whipped up into the dichotomy of red or blue or black and white, and tribalism is a problem, in
Yeah.
my opinion. I don't think, I think tribalism is a shortcut to thinking and a shortcut to experiencing something new. I think people, they form their opinion based off of what they consume in the media, and then they dig their heels in, which makes them completely and utterly unpliable to accepting new information. Don't be a gigantic boulder on the river of information.
Hmm.
Ride that river. Be a pebble that can float. Be a fish that can absorb and experience and travel new things. So I think the
Be a
more
surfer like you, right?
I guess so.
Ride that wave.
There's a lot of waves out there that are, that need to be ridden. And so I think it adds to the vastness and the richness of life. I think there are powerful forces that are kind of doing some divide and conquer work here that are making people look at others with a kind of a you shoot from the hip mentality. The reinforcing of stereotypes is never a good thing, whoever is doing it. And
Right. And it's on both sides.
yeah,
You
and that's the thing. I don't think it's about sides. I don't think it's a binary issue. Stop pigeonholing yourself.
Right.
Really, there is branches that can be offered when you're not so entrenched in vitriol.
Hmm.
And so I'm always for open-mindedness and encouraging outreach to where everyone's trying to survive and maintain equality and maintain peace, and there's obviously vast misunderstandings of what different people want and what different organizations are trying to do. But just know that whenever you're watching the news in America, somebody is selling you something. It's all agenda driven, and that
It's creative.
limits. What's that?
It's creative. But see,
Yeah.
that's why they are watching podcasts like this,
Exactly.
On the Edge with April Mahoney, because they have options, they have choices, and they're hearing, they're hearing a voice from
Right.
the underserved, overlooked,
Amen.
unsung heroes like yourself. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I am so glad that you are out there on the battlefield helping people raise some money, because everybody's not broke brains. Okay, don't believe that. Okay, they're holding on to it tight, believe me, but they're not broke. But they are giving to causes that resonate with their heart. That they're going to see some return on their investment outside
Right.
of a T-shirt, something that they care about, something that is going to be sustainable and renewable. So again, keep doing the work that you're doing, Zack, because, like I told you before, I think you're a beast. I absolutely love you. I'm all about the sale. I'm all about the closing of the deal, but I'm also about the value and the return on the investment. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you. I don't know if you're doing some consultation work, but there's always great nonprofits all over the United States. You may not be able to do auction work in them, but there might be some way that you can collaborate with them or other auctioneers.
The name of my firm is California Coast Auctions, as in cacoastauctions.com. You can learn all about me and watch videos of me and my team doing our events live, which is really not too terribly different on virtual. We do have plenty of clients that are located all over the nation, and we do have studios as well as the one that I'm building to be able to conduct that auction from across the country. Really, the technology through various devices allow for that to occur. And as long as you have a good internet connection and you have a viable entertainment for that virtual event, it's going to be successful. And you're going to be laying the groundwork for your foundation for the future and a whole new revenue stream. So don't turn your back on the future. Don't become Blockbuster in Netflix world is what I like to say. And you'll find all my contact information on that website. I certainly welcome the opportunity to talk to anyone. That's all I do on the 9-to-5 basis. I'm talking to all my current clients, and people are starting to reach out to me now to book me for their virtual events, because I've just found this out. I've done more than anybody else in the country. I was very shocked. I've done 19 virtual fundraisers, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's a lot since March. And I just did my last one for Olive Crest last Saturday, and they're a big, wonderful nonprofit that help foster kids and kids in the adoption services world who are in abusive situations, and that need has never been higher. So
did you want to plug the nonprofit that you're a part of as well, personally?
Yeah, sure. I help along with my right-hand man, the most wonderful and talented Vincent Zapian, who is such an amazing human being. He was the first bilingual auctioneer in the country. 30 years ago, he was the first Latino man to say, I want to be an auctioneer, and he had to trailblaze his way through a lot of challenges, and it made him the most beautiful man you've ever met. And we co-founded, I won't want to, he did most of it. I like to front the money for it, called Jesus and Coffee. And Jesus and Coffee did a lot of homeless ministry to the people on Skid Row in Los Angeles. And San Diego sometimes too. We're handing out Bibles and coffee and ministry work, hygiene kits, connecting people with different social services that want to get off the streets, trying to get them to, live a cleaner life as far as, getting off drugs. And the tough part is it's easier to be homeless for a lot of these people.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Coming to accept who you are and coming to think you're, I think that's like the first step of AA, is realizing that you're powerless over your addiction.
Yeah.
and that's a really hard step for people to take without someone to show them the way.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of causes that are very near and dear to my heart, and I always am so excited to work with any group that is trying to combat child trafficking, human trafficking, child abuse. That is a very unspoken demon in our society, because it's happening all the time. And I work with the Joyful Child Foundation and Child Help and Olive Crest and Grandma's House of Hope. And there's a lot of groups that do that, and they actually do what some of you say. Some of these people who are, you know, who've sadly been through that, they're making jewelry, you know, and the jewelry is being sold at the event, and that is a method of self-sustainability. And you pretty much developed a co-op around your nonprofit,
Absolutely.
and so that's
And again, like I said, it's work.
yeah,
And that's what it is. It's moving and effort. It's not just this. It's
yeah,
not just a hand up.
yeah. You can't just be
It's not
Oliver.
just a handout. No, it's not.
Yeah,
And again, people are well, me, if I really see that you're putting some effort behind building your own
right,
sustainability,
right.
I'll team you all the way.
Sure.
So thank you so much for being here on the edge with me. Brains, go back. You know where to find me, right here. Okay, we got all kind of great stuff coming up. We got some jazz artists, we got some comedians, maybe we got some people that can work with Zack over there to try to get some entertainment for your next fundraiser. You have been a wealth of information. Please, nonprofits and social services and schools, really think about this. I know you got a lot on your plate, but you cannot pour from an empty coffer, baby. You cannot.
Nope.
So thank you so much again. And like you said, don't be a blockbuster in a Netflix world. I love that.
I love you, April.
All right. And I will talk to you again soon, Brains. Go and subscribe. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blog Talk, iTunes, Mixcloud. How's that for rattling them off?
That sounds like an auction. That sounds like an auction.
An auction. Now all I need to do is close the deal. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for being here with me, Zack. Come on back and see me anytime. You always got a seat at the table, all right?
Oh, that's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
All right.